Welcome to The Gift of Life with Gregg. I'm your host, Gregg Francis, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Barry Kaplan. We save lives, plain and simple. Have you known someone stricken with leukemia? Has a family member of yours suffered from lymphoma? Then turn up your dial. This show is for you. We are the gift providing a second life. We are the gift of life. Since 1999, we've saved over 2,700 lives. For many patients with blood cancer, bone marrow donation is often their last hope, and that's where we come in. We try hard at what we do, but we will never be satisfied until we can say, one day, we found a match anytime, anywhere, for anyone. That's the gift of life way. So now we have the scissors, we've opened the box, and now it's time to unwrap the gift of life. Hello, everyone, and a happy April 7th, 2015. Welcome to our show. Hope everybody had a wonderful week. I hope everyone had a happy Passover, a happy Easter, that you spent a lot of, really pleasant times with your family. We're all in the studio today a little tired watching the Duke Blue Devils, and congratulations to Duke for being the 2014-2015 NCAA College Basketball Division I champions. In my opinion, Wisconsin lost a game, but let's give credit to Duke. They cut down the nets. Last show, very, very emotional show for me, recapped how a 21-year-old man giving blood on a day at Emory University forever changed his life. It was the story of Nick Hudson, a student who gave blood in hope of saving someone, never knowing if he was going to be called, never knowing if he was going to meet the person. He was in fact called. The boy was 4 years old at the time. The 4-year-old boy is now 12. Nick subsequently graduated from Emory, subsequently graduated from St. John's Law School, but he decided not to practice law, but serve as an exemplary employee for Gift of Life, and I'm proud to say we have him in studio today. Cameron, the 12-year-old boy who affectionately calls Nick his blood brother, is doing just fine, and if it wasn't for heroes like Nick, people would needlessly die. For those of you who tuned in last show, you know that September is Blood Cancer Awareness Month. I know it's April, and I have two Nicks in studio today, which I'll get to in a little bit, but they're both looking at me. It's April. In fact, the boys of summer are back. Go Yankees. Yankee baseball starting. However, only creating awareness for 1 month will not solve the blood cancer epidemic. So we will continue to spread the word, and we ask our listeners to please do the same. Pacific Islanders are having a very tough time. Hispanic people, grossly underrepresented. Our Asian friends, underrepresented. Our African American friends, underrepresented. Our Haitian American friends, underrepresented. I had discussions with some minority groups affected, and them suffering the consequences of not having enough people in the bone marrow registry means one thing: people are needlessly dying. We cannot let that happen anymore. That's why we do this show every week. People, frankly, don't have the knowledge to traverse the waters of how to recruit bone marrow donors. Patients suffering from these aforementioned ethnicities will find a match less than 50% of the time if they're in need. It's unacceptable. As I said before, that means that more people are going to needlessly die. We have to work harder. If you're interested in learning more, if you're interested in running a drive, if you're interested in contributing, please call Frederick or John, they're waiting for your call today, at 1-800-9-MARROW to get information on how you can get involved. If you want to call the show today, it's 1-888-565-1470. Again, that's 1-888-565-1470. Now, for those of you who have been our supporters, welcome back. And we thank you for all that you've done to spread awareness and transpire action for our show and more importantly for our cause. Because of you, we are ranked the #1 radio show on 1470 WWNN, our flagship station, as well as being the #1 bone marrow radio show worldwide. And yes, Nick and Nick, there is more than one. As previously mentioned, thanks to you, our supporters, our show is now syndicated in 6 cities. What does that mean? It means more awareness, more people swabbing, more contributions, and the culmination of your help will equal more lives being saved. In 2014 alone, Gift of Life Bone Marrow Foundation was responsible for saving 130 lives. Not only the lives of its patients, but the lives of the patients' loved ones, their families. They got to spend more time together. Nick, as I mentioned, Nicholas Hudson in the beginning of this show, is a prime example of being a donor of a boy that was 4 and now he's 12, going to summer camp, watching the Red Sox play yesterday, and unfortunately winning. I'm a Yankee fan. But just those memories are things that he would not have had. So congratulations, team at 800 Yamato Road. Congratulations to our listeners. Without all of our collective efforts, we could have never made that happen. Our mantra this year in 2015, I want to touch upon Arlene Feinberg, the matriarch of Gift of Life, the wife of Jacob Feinberg, and the mother of Jay Feinberg, who is our founder at Gift of Life. Arlene unfortunately passed away in January of 2014. Arlene had a vision. Her vision was to find a match anytime, anywhere for anyone that is suffering from blood cancer. The goal on Gift of Life with Gregg in 2015 is to make Arlene's vision Arlene's reality. And I know we could all do this together. Nobody should needlessly die because they could not find a match. For people who are tuning in for the first time, we're so glad that you could join us today for Gift of Life with Gregg. I'm Gregg Francis, and welcome to our show. We encourage all of our listeners to call in at any time between 4 and 5 today at 1-888-565-1470. Again, that's 1-888-565-1470. We broadcast live from Boca Raton, where it's a very nice, breezy 81 degrees, so it's not a bad place to be right now. 2 months, it might be a different story where the humidity is 96%. But every Tuesday, we broadcast 4 to 5 right here on our flagship station, WWNN 1470. Why are we doing what we're doing? We're here to spread awareness about the Gift of Life Bone Marrow Foundation, a life-saving nonprofit that gives patients like our 7-year-old friend Sammy, who I recently saw, a second chance at life. We want to remind everyone of how special life is, how every day of health and happiness is a true gift of life. Please, I always say this every week, please take stock of what I'm saying. Every day of health and happiness is a true gift of life. We see too many people that are fighting the cancer battle. While you have your health and happiness, please enjoy every single day. Before I go any further, I have to thank my own gifts of life, people who make me smile every day and remind me of how lucky I am. To undoubtedly my biggest fan, my mom, Katie, who I believe is very close by in Boca Raton. Mom, I love you. Thank you for everything. To my biggest Maryland fans, hello and thank you, Grandma Margie, who's listening right outside a suburb in Baltimore, and Billy Beagle, who's the chairman of our board, and could go to 2 countries and 5 states in a week to promote Gift of Life. He's been doing this for 2 decades, and Bill, thank you for fighting our fight and helping us save close to 3,000 lives. And I want to say thank you to my gifts of life, my 2 boys, Patrick, who is 8, and Nicholas, who is 12. And Nick, as a special guest to Daddy, is on spring break today and is joining Dad in studio today. So, Nicholas Francis, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
All right. So, Nick, what grade are you in right now?
I'm in 6th grade.
You're in 6th grade?
Yes.
So, what's going on in the world of a 6th grader right now? You playing any sports?
Yeah, I'm playing soccer and tennis.
What's your favorite?
Soccer probably.
Soccer, what position do you play?
I play striker in soccer.
Striker, so I expect you to score a lot of goals. And do we have a new season coming up?
Yep.
When's it starting?
Sunday.
Sunday? So we have a big game Sunday, but I don't think we got the schedule yet.
No. Not
No?
yet.
So where is Dad going to start you this weekend?
Not sure.
Where do you want to play?
Striker.
Alrighty, and if you score a couple of goals, Dad will bring you back on the show.
Okay.
All right, but you know what? You don't even have to score a couple of goals. I just want you to have fun because that's what youth sports is about. So what else do? You play any instruments?
Guitar.
Guitar?
Mm-hmm.
And how long have you been playing the guitar?
A year and a half so far.
All right, that a boy. So I know that I'm just telling our listening audience here is Gift of Life with Gregg, and on the radio with me is a special guest who is Nicholas Francis, my 12-year-old son. And Nick, how have your grades been this year in school?
All A's every quarter.
Every quarter, all A's. That's something that Dad's very proud of. We work hard, and you worked hard all year. So he really is a great son, and when you talk about gifts of life, this is something that you want to say on my wish list, on my bucket list, to be able to have my 12-year-old son having a conversation with me on live radio. It doesn't get better than this. My co-host is normally Marty Freund. Marty stewards all the walks that we have, which include Boca Raton, New York, New Jersey, and the capital region of Maryland, the District of Columbia, and Virginia. And in 2015, we're starting out in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts. She also brings a wealth of experience for the gift to the Gift of Life with community relations and engagements. So Marty will be back next week. But in her place, as I mentioned before, we have another Nicholas on board, Nicholas Hudson. And Nick, I believe this is your third time live on the show, but we certainly heard you call in plenty.
Yeah, it's great to be here in person yet again, and really racking up the experience points here. It's going to be tough to compete with the Nick to my right. He did a pretty good job. But.
Yeah, no, Nick seems like a regular on the radio. So, Nick, I know that you're excited. We have our first annual Boston Walk coming up. Do you want to tell our listening audience? We have a lot of people that listen outside of Boston College and Chestnut Hill, so take it away.
Absolutely. So we have a walk coming up. It's going to be Sunday, April 26th at the Chestnut Hill Reservoir. That's right around Boston College for people who are familiar with that area. That's in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, right outside Boston. A lot of supporters in that area, a lot of students in that area. We have a surprise for the students in terms of the people who are going to be meeting, and really excited to be able to bring this walk to Boston. We've done it. Marty's done a great job doing other cities. And we're very excited to have Boston being in the mix now.
Well, let's pose the challenge because there's so many universities and colleges outside of the Boston area. Whichever university has the best representation at the walk, we'll have them as a guest on our show for an hour, that they could talk about what they'd like to talk about. And we have a unique theme today about colleges and universities. But what's your favorite thing, Nick, about going to the walks?
I think the best part is definitely when the donor and recipient get to meet for the first time. So for people who are unfamiliar with this, it's right before the walk. There's a stage that's set up, and someone who's donated their marrow or their cells to a recipient in need, they meet for the first time right there on stage in front of all the people who are there. And for a lot of these people, it's a very emotional moment. A lot of the supporters who are there to walk are there because they have some personal attachment with this cause. Either they were sick or a family member was, or they donated. And for all those people to share in that very special moment is a beautiful thing to see and to experience for all parties involved.
It is. And if you could picture this listening right now, it's such a perfect storm of events. You're a donor that has the same tissue type, and you're that person that could save somebody's life suffering from cancer. You never know if you're going to meet. Both parties agree to meet, and you're meeting for the first time. The recipient is meeting the person who saved their life, and the donor is meeting the individual whose life they saved. This one is particularly also sentimental to you, and if you don't mind sharing.
Sure. There are actually two big reasons why it's sentimental to me. The first is that the person who's going to be there is a Boston College student, the person who donated.
Correct.
So her friends, her classmates, are going to be able to see their friend meet the person whose life she saved. And I think this is a really incredible thing for someone to meet the person's life they saved and have their friends there, their family there, and to have it take place at the college that they signed up and that they attend. It's really a storybook ending to this entire story, and we should say maybe a storybook start to the rest of their
Storybook
relationship.
beginning, exactly.
And really, you use the term a perfect storm, and this is really a positive perfect storm. I mean, you couldn't make this up if you wanted to.
No, there's great theater, except that it's real.
Yeah, exactly. It's which makes certainly makes it all the more exciting for us too. It's also very personal to me because the little boy that I donated to lives right outside of Boston, so he's going to be there with his entire family. A lot of whom I haven't gotten the chance to meet. I see him all the time. I see his nuclear family all the time. But to have his cousins and friends, come out for the first time and meet them too makes it even more special for me on a personal level.
And I know something else on a personal level happened to you this Sunday, and the Gift of Life with Gregg family, as well as the family at Gift of Life in 800 Yamato Road, and our listeners. Not only are you a hero, but I have heard that you're an engaged man.
I am.
So congratulations. With
Thank you.
Much love. I met Nicholas' beautiful fiance, Katie, and great things to come. So it's very, very exciting, and it's great luck to the both of you. And on behalf of the Gift of Life with Gregg show, many great things to come.
Oh, thank you very much, Greg. I appreciate it.
All right, we have... We have two quick things, and we had some tweets since we've been on last. The golf tournament, people asked, how did the Gift of Life fare? Well, firstly, Gift of Life played in the 3rd annual Boca West Golf Tournament on March 30th, 2015, with the theme being, it's all about the children. And really everybody, all 20 that of Gift of Life participants had a great time. We fared 7th out of 16, so in the top half. And all the charities are in the greater South Palm Beach area. And in the process, we collected winnings of over $17,000. Thank you to all that participated in making this a special event. And the food was absolutely magnificent. Great job, Boca West, putting on a great show. And it was nice seeing some of our peer nonprofits in South Palm Beach all getting together for a great cause. The next night, and I know that my mom, Katie, who I mention every show, went to see Jay Leno, and I believe it's the Atlantic City Boys. And from what I heard, everybody said that Jay Leno was so accessible. It was a wonderful show. The Atlantic City Boys were great. So everybody that went the next evening really, really had a wonderful time. So again, everybody that participated, great job, and we look forward to participating again next year. $17,000 won. That money's going to go to test kits, hopefully save more lives. And just a lot of stuff going on between the golf tournament, Jay Leno, we have our Boston walk. We have 3 walks going up in the Northeast Corridor in the fall. So a lot going on at Gift of Life Bone Marrow Foundation. We have some interns joining us this summer. We have a campus ambassador program that we mentioned the last few shows. And we have many young students that are joining us. And there's been some prevalent information that's really been scouring the news wires over the last couple of days. Many young students join fraternities and sororities in university. I'm wondering the reason why. I want to be enlightened. I know that Nick was in a fraternity. And when we get back, we're going to join a discussion on something that's been very, very prevalent, very scary. At times it can be very rewarding, but it's an extremely interesting topic. So I invite everybody to stay aboard. I'm Gregg Francis right here with Nicholas Hudson and my son Nicholas Francis. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back in a few.
ThrowItBetter.com. Do you need help with your bowling game? Are you taking the right 5-step approach? If you want to become a competitive bowler, even a recreational bowler that's considering joining a league or a league bowler that is considering joining a tournament, you need to see Vince. He's going to show you how to throw it better. He'll get you the right equipment. He'll show you the right approach. And as a certified coach, he'll put you in the best position to succeed. If you're interested, please contact Vince at throwitbetter@gmail.com and tell him that Gregg sent you. Again, that's throwitbetter@gmail.com, or call Vince at 954-541-5414.
We want to extend a special thanks to our friends at the Boca West Foundation for all the wonderful work they do for Gift of Life and for all the meaningful service they give to the Boca Raton community. For over 3 years, the Boca West Foundation has generously supported local charities in the Boca Raton area. The Boca West Foundation. It's all about the kids. Are you in the market for a health plan? If so, please visit my good friend Gary at Health Plans Unlimited. No plan is too big or too small. Gary will customize a plan that's affordable and comprehensive, just for you. If you're interested, please visit Gary Goldman, the best in the biz, at www.healthplansunlimited.com. Again, that's www.healthplansunlimited.com. Or you can call Gary Goldman directly on his personal line at 954-303-6676. Again, that's 954-303-6676. And tell him that Gregg sent you directly from the Gift of Life. Health Plans Unlimited. We have the health plan for you. Welcome back to the Gift of Life with Gregg, the show that talks about giving and receiving. If you'd like to call into our show, we'd love to hear from you. Please call 888-565-1470. Again, that's 888-565-1470. And now, back to our show.
Okay, welcome back to the Gift of Life with Gregg. It's a beautiful day, April 7th. Baseball season is just starting. College basketball season is just ending. We have a very interesting show on the docket today. But as I mentioned before the break, my son, which is a gift of life moment for me, Nicholas, 12 years old, got straight A's in school all year, in fact. And I brought him on the show as a special guest. Dad's very proud of him. So, Nick, what's been your favorite part of 6th grade this year?
Well, it surely is a big change going from elementary school to middle school. But what I mostly like about it is it's a new change. We get to do more things that are independent, and it isn't just about like going in groups. We get to hang out with our own friends at different times.
Oh, so is it something over the course of the year? Do you go from class to class with the same group, or you stay in the same classroom?
We go to class with the same group.
And so you notice a change between certainly 6th grade and 5th grade.
Yes, a lot.
All righty, and you mentioned before the break that you play soccer and you play tennis.
Yes, I do.
And what else do you do? I know that I know, but what other hobbies do you have?
I take Chinese lessons, which are pretty fun, and I do Spanish class.
Okay, and what do you hope to do with? How long have you been taking Chinese lessons?
For about 6 years, probably.
6 years? Do you may want to study abroad one day, or?
Maybe, yeah.
All right. Well, it's still early. It's still early in the game for that, and we know that we have a big soccer game coming up this Sunday.
Yep.
And so the most important thing, as I always say on the show, and it's no different to you, is to have fun. Mm-hmm. We always have fun, and I'm real happy that you're able to join Dad today, and I'm real happy about how hard you work at school, and most importantly than that, you're a great son.
Thank you.
My other good friend with the same name, Nicholas Hudson, recently got engaged, and as we mentioned in the first spot, he's was a donor to a 4-year-old boy that's now 12 years old, same age as Nicholas here, my son, and is thriving. So Nick, something like that is near and dear to my heart because it's something that I could definitely identify with. Before the break, you and I spoke about the plethora of young students that are joining Gift of Life, both from a full-time employment status as well as campus ambassadors. And why don't you share with us what's been prevalent in the news recently with fraternities and sororities?
Sure. So it's very much a double-edged sword. Certainly having these relationships with fraternities and sororities. A lot of the news recently has focused certainly on the negative side of it, and all the, unfortunately disappointing news, whether they're allegations, and then also the truthful ones, that come out, and that just deal with, I think, students who are immature and students who are just not making good decisions. And the counter to that is we deal with so many students through Gift of Life who are making positive choices, who are going about their college career or going about their experience in a Greek community in the right way by running drives for us, by volunteering. And so it's always very interesting for me to see the difference and the serious dichotomy in how being involved in Greek life can be for the better or for the worse.
You stole my thunder with dichotomy. That was the word that was just going to come out of my mouth.
Great minds.
So, great minds think alike. It's interesting. We're on opposite sides of the fence here. I am so thankful to the Greek system that reached out, that run drives for us, that go ahead and save lives. I myself never opted nor ever wanted to join a fraternity for reasons of hazing, for reasons of excessive drinking, for reasons that would make me try to do something against with undue influence against my better judgment. Again, not all fraternities and sororities are the same. Lately, they haven't been getting the best notoriety on TV and radio. Maybe you could share what your experience was like at Emory.
Sure. So I was a member of a fraternity, which I think makes it even more interesting because, being in that community firsthand, you certainly see the positives and negatives to it. And I think there are very strong positives, and there are also equally strong negatives. And for many people, it's a personal choice. I don't think that everybody should join one because there are a lot of characteristics of fraternities that I wouldn't be proud of. And just certain personality types, I think, wouldn't thrive in that system. And there are certainly other people who would. I think for me, I certainly enjoyed what I think is the biggest positive for most people, and the reason they joined in the first place was the sense of community that you get from it. Often people who, go to school in a different area, it's an immediate way to make contacts and make friends. The counterpoint to that for a lot of people is you're essentially buying your friends, quote unquote. You join a fraternity and you now have to be friends with these people. You probably live in the same house. You probably do all your meals together. So you kind of get pigeonholed. I found it, though, to be the opposite. I really enjoyed the fact that weeks into joining a new school, a new community in and of itself, I had this group of people who were going through the same thing I was, being in a different state, living away for the first time, dealing with class. And I also worked while I was in college, so dealing with that too. And it was a nice support system to have. That, I think, is overall the biggest, pro in terms of joining. But I think, as you can see from a lot of the recent news, that sense of community sometimes take a turn for the worst.
Yeah. My reason for joining, I never considered it buying friends, paying into a club, because everything, whether you join a sport, whether you play an instrument, whether you take lessons, there's always money involved. So any activity, it's generally not free. I never looked at the monetization as a reason to join or not join. What I never quite understood, and granted I was never in a fraternity, is the hazing process. And that's been something that's been very, very prevalent on the news. It's been a very polarizing topic from institutions such as Yale and Dartmouth that have made the news. And unfortunately, the allegation for University of Virginia that really tarnished the reputation, and I believe that we could go into this a little more. It was an article written by Rolling Stone, the Rolling Stone magazine, where the facts weren't accurately checked.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that is a perfect example of people not really needing a whole lot of evidence to be convinced that kind of thing could happen. which itself is a really difficult reality to deal with. The fact that people don't need that many facts to believe that a fraternity could be capable of doing something like that isn't a good thing, And I think that when it gets that widespread, like that particular article had over 2 million views online, that information can get dispersed and given out so quickly now in the media age that makes it even more important that, Greek life in general really watches their reputation. And unfortunately, there's been a whole lot of other incidents which really cut down that reputation.
Well, yeah, I know that another article that was in the Huffington Post took place with Dartmouth University. A gentleman that was in a fraternity spoke about all the inner happenings of hazing, how he almost passed away, and it's considered to be like a rite of passage. And when you look at a lot of the presidents and a lot of the CEOs of Fortune 500s, they've all participated in Greek life. And I still can't wrap my head around what the allure of it is. I mean, I know that there are benefits with parties. I know that there are benefits with meeting, people, partners, people of the, other comrades. Definitely, guys may say girls and sororities may say that they have mixers with fraternities. But I think it comes at a big cost. Maybe from somebody that's looking at it, from a distance, it can't make sense to me how somebody would go through those humiliation tactics. By the same token, why would people humiliate one another? And again, you may have a better inside view than somebody that opted not to do it.
Sure. And I think before I say anything else, I think it's kind of comical that some fraternities and sororities say that they don't haze, because everybody does. Some are worse than others, but I think you go into it knowing that that's going to happen, and you just hope that it's not as bad as stories that you've heard. I think that when you look at hazing in an isolated instance, it certainly doesn't make any sense at all. Why would one human essentially subjugate himself in front of some other people who are only a year older? You're not talking
Correct.
about you're a rookie on the job. You're dealing with a vet who's been there for 20 years. Talk about a kid who happened to be born 9 months before you, and now he's a grade older, right? So there's no real experience that you're getting from it, other than the weird camaraderie you get with the people who are going through it with you. And I think it's similar in certain ways to any time, let's say you start a job or you start, a pro athlete as a rookie, and they have to go through this first year experience with other people, and other people who have been through it will look at you as though you've gone through something and you deserve to be there because you went through it.
I'm not a proponent, and I've heard it with Major League Sports that they have to, buy people the team dinner, which could be upwards of $35,000, where the rookies on the rookie scales can't afford it. Bringing bagels to meeting, bringing donuts to meeting, bringing in players' equipment. But I think that there's a stark difference between that and being physically abused or drinking to the point of potentially having alcohol poisoning or worse, perishing. Mm-hmm. So I know that it's the same philosophical frame that you have to prove your worth in some capacity. But again, is there a pecking order between drinking to the point of vomiting and carrying in somebody's football equipment?
Yeah, definitely two different worlds. And I think, unfortunately, now in the current Greek system, in that twisted way, a lot of people don't see a difference between that. I think that's unfortunate. I think anyone who's looking very honestly at Greek life and the hazing that goes on will tell you that it's very difficult to defend the people who take it to that extreme, because the brothers or sisters or whatever the case is who make other people do that, I think they're few and far between. I don't think that people get into it to be in that role. I think people get into it in the first place to have some friends. Very basic tenets of humanity. Make some friends, have a good time, hang out with some people after school. Then there are always a couple people, like everything else in life, who are a few rotten apples, and they really tarnish the experience for other people by taking it to those extremes that you just mentioned.
No, I looked at this and I studied this for about 15 years. I studied it very closely. I understand why somebody would join. I understand in theory that, even if you look at Maslow's, hierarchy of needs, you could make the argument that acceptance is at the same level as water and food, even though, some others may argue that point, that it's definitely up there. But the need to belong to something, I've often equated joining a fraternity very similarly to joining a gang. And some people may look at that answer as cockeyed, but the basic tenets, using your word again, is the need to belong to something. I think in one, it's for acceptance, and another one, it's for lack of a nuclear family or for safety purposes. But I think a lot of the tenets of why people would again, subjugate themselves to harassment, physical violence, drinking to excess, sitting naked and having somebody, speak about the parts of the body that aren't flattering, and do that, so to say, of their own free will to get along, actually scares me in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
And how far will people go to get accepted? And again, the reason why I bring this up is that the topic raises such a dichotomy with me, because we hear about the influence on the radio, and it's generally stereotyped in a negative way. By the same token, we deal with a lot of fraternal organizations, Greek organizations, sororities, that run drives to save people's lives, and certainly are very philanthropic.
Sure.
So I don't know, where the X and the Y crosses. Again, I'm 45 years old, and I have my 12-year-old son in here with me, and again, I hope that he makes good decisions in life, and you always have to let people find their own way. I mean, at current state, I would hope that he wouldn't join a fraternity.
Trust me, I won't.
No, no, that's I appreciate your chiming in, but it's gonna be your decision. But I just, I worry that sometimes a lot of people escaped death narrowly. It doesn't get reported. And that's the kind of stuff in this day and age that really scares me, having somebody that goes in. I mean, a lot of people have told us secretly what, in fact, does go on behind closed doors. And the reason why we brought it up this week, Nicholas, is because it has been so prevalent. And do you know a little bit about the story that happened in Virginia?
I do, in terms of the story that was published, as well as all the recent info that's happened too, in terms of it came out that the story wasn't entirely true, and Rolling Stone magazine then submitted themselves to an audit by essentially the Columbia University School of Journalism.
Almost like a peer review.
Yeah, peer review, and then they came back with an article of all the things that were wrong, which was even longer than the initial article.
Yeah, I think one was 9,000 words, and the peer review refuting, everything that was said was 13,000 words.
Sure.
And it stemmed from a young lady being invited to a party of a popular, handsome man, and she spoke about that she was sexually assaulted by about 7 individuals. Without checking the sources, Rolling Stone published a magazine. And after Columbia did a peer review, it basically indicated that a lot was, if not all, was fabricated. Or at least, certain pieces, or to what degree, but they didn't go through the right fact-finding process.
Yeah.
But we have heard instances from Yale University, one of the finest educational institutions in the United States. I know there was something with Oklahoma.
Yeah, and I think part of the most fascinating part about all this for me is we're talking about these great schools.
Yeah.
We're not talking about how these experiences or these stories of fraternities in general happen in gangs. We're talking about them at literally the best schools in the entire country and amongst the whole world. So it's so interesting to me that that fraternities and the habits that exist within hazing also exist, just happen to be the best schools in the country, or just in general that it's affiliated with colleges. Like college, if you look at the roots of it, did not start for this to happen. This was not what people had in mind when universities were founded, and yet now it's so common that we don't even really blink an eye.
No, it's the adage, that it's boys being boys or girls being girls, and I don't know. I just don't. I can't figure it out. It's really, to me, it's interesting more why an individual would subject themselves to physical abuse in order. Is it for acceptance? Is it for connections? Is it for philanthropics? I mean, I've read reasons why people want to join. I mean, it's everywhere from being in a new community, not knowing everybody, to having great connections upon graduation, that you have a ready-made group that might be able to get you an interview when you possibly could not. Having the party situation.
I think it definitely is the community sense more than anything. I can tell you, firsthand and from other people, you don't get hazed and think, okay, this will help me land a job in 10 years at that exact moment, because now you just go on LinkedIn. That definitely is not going through your head. And you're also not thinking at that time, okay, I can deal with this because there'll be some pretty girls who are at a party in a week. That's not going through your head either. I think what really just goes through your head is everybody else is doing it. And that's not a good excuse. But for an 18-year-old, that's often the most powerful excuse.
I'm not here to say, whether it's right or wrong for everybody, because I think that it is good for certain people, and I understand again why people would join. There are certain things why I don't understand that people would go through. So I guess a fair question: did you all ever almost reach your breaking point?
Me personally, I didn't, but I certainly know there are people who have. And it comes down to those few bad apples who really take it too far, who I'm sure have some issues in their own right, in terms of a small amount of power getting to their head, and certainly people have reached certain breaking points. That's where I guess that sense of community usually stops it from happening, because you rely on the other people who are going it with you. But the fact that it ever reaches that level, I think is a very sad thing. And I think all the talk about it, unfortunately, casts a very large shadow on all the positives that they do. And again, we see all those positives every day. So it makes it even tougher to deal with all the negative side of it that comes out.
No, I would say in the last 20 years that a lot more fraternities have not been directly affiliated on a chapter level with the school. So it's that they're acting independently, or that they've lost their sanction or whatever it would be with the institution itself. And I mean, let's not be naive. In most states, the drinking age is 21, so there's a lot of underage drinking. I think that there would have to be a lot of liabilities for the schools.
Sure.
So the amount that are actually recognized by said institution it has been diminishing. I know that Rutgers this week disbanded. I don't know if it disbanded their Greek system for the time being.
I knew VA had too, in light of this article. So you're definitely seeing that a lot more. Just across the country, people are going to have stronger reactions, which they should. You know what I mean? Like, I guess there's one point out of all this. It's that they really should, come down harder on some, so that people see the positive sides of it. I know that our colleague, Alec, had actually posted a story about the fraternity that he was in, and he just listed all the good things they did in the recent year, and that included finding a bone marrow match for somebody.
Oh, no. There's a lot of very positive, powerful things that are done by fraternities and sororities. And I witness it every day, whether it be social, whether it be business, whether it be fraternity, whether it be sorority. There's a lot of powerful things that have been done, and a lot of lives that have been saved as a result. But it's just, to me, it's always been an interesting topic as to why. And speaking of the person that you just mentioned, and and your ally with the Campus Ambassador Program. We welcome Alec to the show. Alec, welcome to Gift of Life with Gregg.
Hey, Greg, how are you?
Good. Say hi to recently engaged Nicholas Hudson.
Hello, recently engaged Nick. How are you?
And
Thanks, Alec.
say hi to my son, Nicholas Francis.
Nicholas Francis, how are we doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. It's great to make your acquaintance on the show today.
Thank you.
So, Al, we're talking about a very polarizing topic. I don't know if you saw the news this week with the fraternities and sororities and I believe the misallegations at University of Virginia.
Yeah, I did see that, Greg.
And I've been pretty forward in my stance that I'm not anti-fraternity, anti-Greek. It's just not for me. And I know Nicholas was telling me some stories where, went over certainly the positives and the negatives of hazing. And I believe that you were in the Greek system yourself.
I was actually in the now infamous Sigma Alpha Epsilon, SAE, that has been, one of the organizations that's really been under fire due to the chapter at the University of Oklahoma. So I know all too well, what it feels like to feel the weight of, a different organization putting, your sacred fraternity in a bad light.
So let me ask you a question, and probably I'm not the best person to opine on this because I haven't been through it, I guess, of my own volition. But what would you say to a young person that was thinking about rushing or pledging a fraternity, or a young lady that was thinking about rushing or pledging a sorority?
Well, I think, one of the biggest issues is that, people really do blanket the fraternities and sororities as large national organizations, which they certainly are. But many of them also have, their own characterization, their own style, and, it's very much so different on a university by university basis. So, speaking, as a bystander at this point, someone who is passed on, I would, and hearing what Nicholas Francis said earlier, just about the fact that at, age 12, I believe, he's already decided that he's not going to, be a part of this. I think, you want to go into it with an open mind. I am not advocating that it is for everyone. I'm not going to try and change minds here today. But I think, different universities, hold their fraternities and their Greek systems in a different way. And they do have something to offer. One point that you were asking earlier is just, the question of why. Why do these individuals subject themselves to this? Why do people feel a need to join in the first place? And I think you cited a couple of reasons, like acceptance and philanthropy and getting a job. Are those? Is that correct?
Yeah. A few, and I read this, Al, from articles and from other studies that I did speaking with people. But the three major ones that stand out are, a sense of community, meeting people of the opposite sex or same sex, if that would be, as well as the philanthropy and the connections that you may have for a future job.
Right. And, I'm not sure how familiar you and Nicholas Hudson are, with actually the history of hazing. I don't know how much, reading you've done into that, but it was actually, hazing only came about post-World War II.
Correct.
And it was taken from, directly from the military, and it is very militaristic in what they make young kids do. But it wasn't a part of the Greek system at the time of the Greek system's inception. And I think what you might see, going forward is a real effort unilaterally by the Greek systems to try and get back to their roots, in which there was no pledge period. Really, the pledge period was actually the outreach of the brothers who were currently inside the fraternity, really going outside, of their comfort zone and reaching out to these students and seeing who was the active members in their class, who was sitting in the front row and asking all the right questions, who was the leaders in their religious organizations and cultural societies. And that, doing that outreach and getting to know the people prior to getting to know them through what is now considered a pledge period, is what I think you'll see the Greek system resort to. And I think that's a much better model as opposed to having someone, a freshman boy, come to your house or a girl, getting to know them in a week's time, and then 6 weeks of really getting to know them, which has become, the formalized pledge process.
Well, let me ask two questions. Yes, Al, I read about that. Hazing did initiate, no pun intended, after World War II, and it does have militaristic models. The question that I ask, and not being in there, if you think it's going to go, a lot of it is legislated inside the House with the university either not knowing to the degree of what's going on, or could I say potentially turning a blind eye. But why do you think that it may go back to the tenets before, let's say World War I or World War II, when hazing as we know it in modern day occurred?
Well, I think it's going to have to follow that trend because there's just so much outside pressure now because of all of the terrible instances and hazing allegations that have come to light within the last 5 years. And the overall good that the Greek system is doing cannot be sustained with the few and minor comparative, negative allegations. It just can't withstand that. So you're going to see a transition either to, I believe, an overall expulsion of the Greek system, which is possible, or just a complete eradication of any sort of pledge process. Not to say that there won't still be hazing, but, on a national standpoint, the organizations will do away with what many have in place now, which is an official pledge process.
Let me ask both of you a question, and not to be naive about it. I don't drink, and I'm sure that there's a few of me, not too many, in college. What do you say the chances of somebody that does not drink alcohol going through a pledging semester?
I don't really think there's a small number of fraternities that are still, and sororities that are still forcing consumption of alcohol. I'm not here to say that no one does it, but I think, there really has been a concerted effort across the nation to limit any sort of alcohol intake and move towards a dry pledge process. So I don't think, certainly, after the pledge process is completed and people can become brothers or sisters, much of Greek life is surrounded by the social party scene that involves drinking. So I don't know if someone, would necessarily want to get involved if they weren't a partier per se in the first place. But I don't think, one's disregard for alcohol would negatively affect them in today's pledge process.
All right, and I want to flip to the other side of the spectrum. Your fraternity was very, very instrumental in saving lives. Many fraternities and sororities do a lot of good for the community, and that has to be one of the feel-good stories. And you certainly, people in fraternities and sororities have inter-Greek council where they have a lot of potential influence on campus to make things happen. And that's one of the reasons why I think our new campus ambassador program is certainly going to have a lot of legs in 2015, 2016.
I completely agree. And as I mentioned earlier, there is so many beautiful and philanthropic and really successful initiatives that are occurring each and every day on college campuses by the Greek system, and the media just doesn't choose to highlight those occurrences. And that's why I'm always trying to make people recognize the good with the bad in terms of the Greek system. Certainly, it's not a perfect system, but as you mentioned, it has so much potential to make a real positive impact, and it does. It does. It really does.
No, I know that for Nick, it was a positive experience. For you, it was a very positive experience. For myself, it was something that I never experienced. And I maybe for the reason that you just said, without trying to divulge too much about my personality, somebody that's not necessarily a drinker probably wouldn't thrive in that culture per se. But with that being said, we found that it was a very, very, polarizing topic this week again. And again, with the Columbia peer review, it turned out to be a 12,000-word article, and some other, with Oklahoma, with some racial slurs, and Yale, I can't talk about it on the air, or they'd be pushing the button every, 5 seconds. But Al, I really appreciate you hopping on again on the show. We have two Nicholases here today. We're looking forward to a great Boston walk, which I'm going to see you in a few weeks. And we have a lot of exciting stuff on the docket at Gift of Life. We have the Gift of Life walk. We have 3 walks in New York, the Capital Region, and New Jersey coming up in the fall. We have our gala coming up in June, and I believe that you both are going to be there.
Yep, both going to be there. Both excited to see all the fellow donors who are going to be there too.
So yeah, you're a fraternity and sorority of donors and recipients, and that's really the favorite part of for me. The favorite part of the galas and the favorite part of the walks are meeting the individuals that meet for the first time, and the gala most apropos called Partners for Life. So it really is such a wonderful and really emotional experience. So Al, I thank you a lot. Nick and I will be calling you tomorrow to go over some strategy, and I'm getting the 2-minute warning on the other side of the glass, so closer to 1-minute warning. So, Al, thank you very much. Nicholas, 3rd time's a charm, so I really want to congratulate you and Katie on your engagement, and much love and many years of health and happiness. And Nicholas Francis, Daddy couldn't be more proud of you. And thank you. And this is a gift of life for me, being able to be on live radio with my son. We'll be back next week, the day before your taxes are due, April 14th. I hope everybody has a great week. Enjoy the time with your family. Enjoy your great health. God bless, and we'll be back same time next week.
Thanks for tuning in to The Gift of Life with Gregg. I wanted to personally say thank you to everyone who participated in today's show. And I also wanted to let you know if that you're interested in what we do here at The Gift of Life, please call 1-800-9-MARROW. That's 1-800-9-MARROW. Or you can visit our website at www.giftoflife.org. Again, that's www.giftoflife.org. Even though we're wrapping up our show today, remember, you must always unwrap the gift of life.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.